Hi guys, welcome to Rootstem, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to paint up your orcs to look like this Blood Bowl team. Hi there guys, thanks for joining us, and as you can see, today's video I'm going to be painting Blood Bowl. Yay! Not painted a Blood Bowl figure for quite some time. These are orcs. I'm going to be painting them in a very old school colour. I used to have this team in metal, and unfortunately my dad sold them when I was in his garage being stored. I'll kill him. These are the new, very old plastic orcs. I know there's some black orc team that's recently come out, but I've had these for probably more than a year, and I've only just got round to paint. Well, I'm just getting around to paint them now. I'm going to be painting these in the style of the Auckland Raiders, or Auckland Raiders, sorry. Auckland Raiders being an actual American football team, or football if you're American. But I'm not, so it's a American football team. It used to be called the Auckland Raiders. I think it was then the LA Raiders, then Auckland again, and then I think they have Las Vegas. I think I've lost track with the Raiders and how many times they move, if I'm honest. But yeah, I'm going to be painting this in the lovely yellow colour with the black flame. And we're going to be doing it, because of course it's my channel, I'm going to be using an airbrush. And we're going to be doing it a little bit differently. So one of the first colours that we're going to be sticking on here is Green Stuff World's Mystic White. That's going to be done as a zenithal highlight on pretty much all of the armour plates. So we have our orcs done. This is the thrower, just to show you the difference in the it's kind of like the zenithal highlight that I'm currently kind of trying to do. I'll get one of the blitzers out, and this is a blitzer. Yeah, it is. You can see more heavily armored, and of course this will have more of the Green Stuff World's metallic Mystic White, which is a metallic white, which actually works very well with the next step that I'm going to do. So it's going to be quite stylized. I'm going to use this blocker here. I've moved the position of the camera because I think I kept blocking it in the previous video because I'm stupid. And we're going to use Nasdrag yellow, an appropriate colour for orcs, especially when it's space orcs. Nasdrag. We're going to airbrush it, and we're going to airbrush it on. I'm on 20 psi roughly, if you could hear the compressor going off in the background. And we're just going to sort of like try and get as much of the armour as we can. Don't worry about if we get other areas. So we've got the yellow on, and we're going to start painting some Orc Flesh. Now I've got an old school Goblin Green, which I think that's War Moth Green in the current range, and the reason I've got it is because it's quite a nice bright colour. I do like fantasy orcs to be, especially when they've got the big heads like these, to be quite sort of like a very, well, I like them to be really, really bright green. And we're just going to apply this all over the skin. I'm using the thrower as an example, mainly because he's actually got most flesh on him, because the other guy, well, especially some of the blitzers, they don't have a lot. Try and make sure that your paint is thin, but if you think you've got too much on there, just get a bit off. And yes, I am using a wet palette, but I wouldn't recommend never using a wet palette. It has to be a wet palette. I'm painting in all the detail on the face because I'm going to be going in with some red later. And just make sure that you get as much of the green as you possibly can. And then, now our next step, apologies for the camera, in my Orc Flesh is going to be some Orc Flesh. I want to call it Orc Flesh Wash, but it's just Orc Flesh. But it's a contrast paint, and it kind of acts a bit like a wash. So on the green that you've already done, just lather this all over, and this will now go, it'll darken off the entirety of the skin, go into the recesses that we need it to go into. A bit like Orc Flesh, Flesh, yeah. A bit like one of the Orc Flesh wash of old. Now, back to the Goblin Green, or whatever green you're actually using for this. I think it's Warboss or Wazdaka Green or something from the main range. I'll try and get it up. Wet paleting, and then trying to get it nice and thin. And we're just going to put several layers over what we've done. I'll be honest, I am a camera in front of me, and we're just going to and then leave some of the recess. Get a couple of layers of this on. We'll have a nice rich Orc Flesh. That's very reminiscent of some of the old school ways of doing it. Okay, so now, smashing my camera, now I've got some Moot Green. We are going to wet palette it again, there we are, really thin, and we're just going to start just highlighting a couple of areas. And remember, keep it nice thin, and this should, it will always kind of dry a little bit lighter than the colour that you're already doing. So hopefully that's focusing. I'm not focusing on my phone. So we're just doing it again, just this time kind of like picking out like muscle bits rather than neck. Alright, now got the green going. We now need to get the undersuits done. So what I've done is just got some Rhinox hide, and we have based kind of everything. Oh, I missed a bit. We've always double check your figures. I've based kind of everything except the boots, because the boots are going to be black. So I've based pretty much all of the and the sashes, they're going to be a different colour, but I've based pretty much all of the uniform. So the uniform I'm going to do like as a brown and a red. Sashes, we're going to actually do that as a purple, surprisingly, because purple's a really good contrast colour to yellow, especially since you've got a green skin on here. So make sure all your bits are browned off, and then we are going to use a mixture of these two for all the straps. But first off, we need a mixture of these two to start basing up majority of the sort of cloth. So if it's like a leather strap that goes across the wrist, or something that's holding the so like something that's holding that there, maybe even that, of course you can do the belts as well. We're going to do that like a really deep red, and then we're going to do that for Mournfang, and that for, of course, everything else. So we're just going to mix it up and then put another layer, sort of thin it down with your wet palette, put another layer of Mournfang on, and the same with Corn Red, just kind of trying to keep out the recesses, and then we'll come to the wash stage. So as you can see, there's a couple of layers of Mournfang on there. Yes, good. Picking on this chappy. So we'll get the red done. Now the red has been applied. If you can see there, we've got some nice shades of brown and red leather, all from a nice bit of a dark coat. It is a nice dark red. I'm not trying to go too bright. I'm wanting the model to have detail, but I'm also not wanting to distract it from the armor plates that we've actually got here. You know, at the end of the day, I'm wanting the yellow to be the brightest. So I'm going to get some Seraphim Sepia. This is mainly just to run into the recesses on some of the back that we've done with cloth, and we can run it down a little bit of the leather. I've gone for Seraphim because it's a bit lighter than the usual dark ones like Agrax. Agrax can be quite dark if put on incorrectly or too heavy. I'm going to be using some small brushes just so I can get right in there for the details. Once we've done that, let's start picking out some more of those hyper pieces. Mainly, I'm going to come in to get some purples done. Yes, purples. So details on the red are now completely finished, and on the brown. So we've got our nice kind of undergarments painted up in just more of a traditional sort of like orky, just red leather and brown sort of. So we're not distracting away from the armor. Now we are going to be distracting a little bit away from the armor by doing some purple. And the reason I'm doing purple is at the opposite spectrum on the color chart to yellow, so it's quite a nice little bit of a contrast. I'm going to go with Xerius purple to begin with. We're going to highlight up with, of course, the ever classic Gene Stealer purple. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to base coat every bit that I'm wanting purple with the Xerius purple first. So anything like a sash. So he's got one. Nope. He's got his hair. That can be done. So I can accentuate, he's got a little bit of a tabard going down the bottom there. He's got a bit of a tabard. Have he got any tabard? No, there's armor on that one. He's got a tabard. Right, okay, so really it's just a black orc. That hasn't really got anything that I can purplize. So I'm just going to... anything that's like the sort of like groinal tabard. Don't know what to call it. Loincloth, that's the one. So that's going to be purple. And anything that's like a sash, like on this one here, that's going to be purple. Right, coat that up. Just make sure that you thin it down and give it a nice even coat. Now Xerius purple has been put onto the model. We've gone with some Druchii violet as well. I've just done an all over wash and then layered it back up a little bit with some more of the Xerius purple. See if you can see that there. Now it's not very, I'll just adjust my light, sorry. It's not very, you will not be able to see much variation yet. But now we're going to start adding some Gene Stealer purple. Get it on your wet palette. I've got mine here, my Gene Stealer purple might need checking up a bit more. But kind of start mixing the colour, doing a little tiny bit of an highlight, and then you want a bit of an edge highlight of the Gene Stealer purple when you're about done. Now, I've painted the ball, but that's just basically a series of browns. If you can see from sort of the purple, I added a bit of white just to give it a tiny bit of a highlight. And I've also gone and got some Gracia and painted the teeth and nails. And we're going to use a couple of contrast paint. Well, actually, we're going to use a contrast paint. So we're going to use Orc Flesh. That's going to be for the nails. And for the teeth, we want a slightly whiter teeth. I'm actually just going to put some Seraphim Sepia over the top, and that should get into the recesses, act a bit like a contrast paint, and fill in the gaps. Now folks, we are getting there. We've got some teeth done. Probably best on this one actually, to be honest. Put some red dots in for the eyes, and we're going to be proceeding with some silver next. So there's a lot of silver spikes. If you want to do all the spikes, you can do. I think I'm going to. So just basically put a dot of silver on there. I'm going to do some of the knuckle dusters and stuff there, going to be painted up silver as well. Just so I've got a nice, another type of contrast to go with the yellow kind of colour that we've got on these particular lads. And then we're going to paint some black on the boots now. I don't really know, I don't need to show you guys how to paint black. But just paint some black on the boots, and then we'll come in for the highlighting of the silver and the black. The metal is now dry, so we're going to grab our trusty trusty. I'll put make sure that it's mixed up right. I've got a metal ball bearing in here. So we've got some null oil, and we're just going to coat liberally, normally. Just coat this silver with some null, and then we'll come to highlighting it. Pretty much one of the final steps that we're going to be doing with these models. We've got some Stormhorse silver, which I'm combining in a mixture of dry brushing and using a really small brush. I mean, look at that. Look, if you can zoom in on that one. Can we focus on it? There we go. Very fine, very small. That's going to be used to detail up the silver, and there's some camera wobble and all sorts happening. So what we're going to do first is to dry brush. So we're going to dry brush the silver edges as best we can. Don't get it on anything else. And then just go in with that and a little bit on the wet palette, as you can see. And then just kind of tap it up so that we've got some decent looking edges. And you're pretty much going to be done apart from basing and transfers. And there you go. We have a half of a Blood Bowl team painted. I just now need to crack on with the other half. As you can see, I've already done the bases. I've colour-coded the bases to make it easier for me to be able to play with these guys on the pitch and know, because some of these might look a little similar. And we've got some transfers on there just to denote what position these players are playing in. Tokens have all been done as well. That's it. All you need to do is repeat the process and we have a full Blood Bowl team ready to go. Well, thank you very much for watching, guys. Please like, share, subscribe, hit that notification button if you do want to see more. And we'll see you next time on Rootstem.